This researcher and author, his name is Mr. Robert Bauval. Mr. Bauval specializes in engineering and construction. He worked in construction for a number of years, and the countries that I got here is he worked in Oman, Iran, and later he worked in engineering in Sudan and Guinea, and later on he worked in management in Saudi Arabia. Now, this researcher, Mr. Robert Bauval, was the man that discovered that the belt stars were aligned exactly as the three pyramids in Egypt. And the result is that those pyramids, regardless of you being told by the mainstream archaeologists, basically most of those people, they just do their work behind a laptop or a desktop without going to those sites. And so what he's done is, by doing this sort of research, he had discovered that that the pyramids are far more older than what you people have been led to believe. Okay, those are huge, massive megalithic stones. Now consider this before you start thumbing down this video. The Egyptians had only stone hammers and bronze chisels. Now, I ask you this: how could a civilization like that, so backwards in technology, could have produced such a magnificent work? Okay, now you people there, you people in the mainstream archaeologists with so many PhD degrees and things like that, you people need to sit down and really think about what you are promoting up there in those books. Because if you go to those sites, you will see that it is impossible to build those enormous structures with the tools that you allege that the Egyptians used to use. Okay, so this is one of the things that bothers me a lot about the mainstream, because there is no doubt a lot of reputation at stake here. By the way, you have to pardon me because my language, I speak Spanish, English, I speak a little bit of Portuguese as well, so sometimes, you know. But anyway, you people in the mainstream, you really need to think what you're doing, because people are becoming aware of the lies perpetuated by the small group of archaeologists and other people as well. In particular, you know, when you put something like this on video, and then you got some criticism coming from other sides, and those people criticizing from, you know, with anonymous dodgy accounts and shit like that, they've never been outside of their house, you know, like or their office, and all they're doing is criticizing without actually checking the stuff as we're doing. We're actually going out there and checking the stuff there, and seeing the results and bringing you the results. I will bring you some of my results later on in the near future. Okay. And what I've discovered is that all of the stuff that you've been told is just a complete fabrication, just a complete lie from start to finish, because those structures, whether they be in Easter Island, in South America, in Peru, in Egypt, or wherever it is in the world you're going, even in Turkey, there's just no way that people with that sort of technology could have built those enormous structures. Now, I mentioned Easter Island. Now, the people in Easter Island, they were Stone Age people. There is no way that those people could have built so many statues. And ask yourself a question: how is it that those statues are so much buried in the ground? All right? Those statues are really ancient. So you really need to think about what you're saying and what you people in the mainstream you know, parroting out there. Because there's no way that the people are going to take this nonsense anymore. People are becoming aware. People are visiting those sites and they're making their own mind. And it's thanks to people like Bauval, Robert Bauval, Brian Forrester, and as well as the ancient astronaut theories that they also have other tours and things like that involved. All these things are making people aware. They're taking people towards the site so they can see it for themselves, touch it and see, and come up with the idea that Stone Age people and Bronze Age people could not have possibly done that. I'd like you now to present to you Mr. Robert Bauval. So now let's listen now to Mr. Robert Bauval as he talks about the megalithic structures in Egypt and around the world. Thank you for watching Cosmofobia.
Well, the science of astronomy tells us that the ancient Egyptians could be as old as the 11th millennium BC, but the Egyptians themselves believed in a great antiquity of their civilization. And there are kings lists, for example, that go down to 36,000 BC. Now, the Great Pyramid is not just designed along astronomical principles. It is extremely precise. This is what we have to realize. The axis of the Great Pyramid is barely offset a fraction, a minute fraction of a degree. The precision is astounding. So why this precision? I'm a construction engineer. Well, actually, I'll waffle him because you don't have a voice. Well, for a construction engineer, the problem is this, is that the precision is unnecessary. In fact, it is detrimental to the building, because we know that if you bring two blocks very, very close to each other, which is very, very difficult to do, but by doing so, you're actually causing a structural problem, because you want a gap between the blocks. The reason you want a gap is that you want that the dead weight of the building actually works within the joints. If you bring them too close, you cause a stress in the building. So I'm giving you very fast and you choose what you want. So the precision is not only increasing the problem of the builders. It will take him much, much longer to achieve that precision. But in fact, it's doing nothing in terms of the structure of the building. It's causing a problem. So the question is, why did they want this precision? And clearly, everything invites us to consider that the precision has to do with astronomy. They wanted something extremely precise. They wanted to make sure that it was extremely precise. This was extremely important to them. So we're looking at people who focused all their vision on the sky. And to them, to me, it's nothing surprising, because we're looking at people everywhere in the world who build monuments with monolithic blocks with high precision, and the high precision is always linked to astronomy. You have the case of all your other monuments. And therefore, we have to ask the question is, why did they do this? Why did they want to go for this high precision? In the case of the Great Pyramid, there's a lot of anomalies that are there. For example, the blocks, as I explained last night. You have courses which are of uneven thickness, and the blocks themselves are not of the same size. This means that we have 2.5 million blocks that were used to build this pyramid of an equal size. It's like assembling a gigantic puzzle with 2.5 million pieces without an instruction manual. It is an incredible task, and there is no need for this complication. They could have easily quarried blocks which had the same thickness. So we have to ask ourselves, who are these people who did not shy away from this kind of complications? Indeed, they seem to have deliberately caused complications to themselves. In the case of the temples, as I explained, we have temples that have blocks weighing between 50 and 200 tons. Totally unnecessary, absolutely unnecessary to use to build a temple. As a matter of fact, it is far better to build them with smaller blocks, far more malleable, and you can achieve a much higher architectural precision. Again, we're faced with a problem. Why do they want to have those kind of difficulties in their construction? And therefore, it is our job to try and understand what they had in mind. Or are we looking at people who had a technology that we cannot understand? And that is perhaps more interesting. In spite of the contradictions to the established view as to what the ancient Egyptians or prehistoric men were, we are forced to consider these questions. The accuracy is not only found in Egypt and the Great Pyramids, although these were extremely precisely aligned monuments. We find that throughout the world, other monuments of ancient cultures are exhibiting the same astronomical precision, again, using the same monolithic sort of construction. So we have to ask ourselves the question, why? And to me, it seems that these people were tracking time. Everything directs us to conclude that they were tracking the precessional changes of the sky. To them, the story of humanity was written in the sky, and they were tracking it with the precision and with their monuments. Now here, for example, the construction of Stonehenge. We know that the people who built Stonehenge were aligning the monument precisely to the summer solstice. How do we know the age of the monument? Well, because again of the phenomenon of precession, we find that the position of the summer solstice, as seen from the latitude of Stonehenge, is different in the ancient past. By calculating the difference, we arrive at the date of Stonehenge, which is somewhere in the 3rd millennium BC. In all these monuments, we're finding the hallmark of precession. And precession is, in sort, the DNA reading of our planet. It is unique to our planet. The cycle of precession is unique to our planet. So these people were tracking down time, and they were tracking down the changes of our planet. Why were they doing that? Why all of them are doing that in their monuments? And these are the questions that we have to answer. The problem that we have is that we're bringing in a new science into the study of ancient monuments. And this science is astronomy. There is a tremendous resistance in accepting that it is through astronomy that we can understand the textual material that these people have left us. Their monuments, their silent monuments, speak in astronomical terms. Now, we have existing models established by the archaeologists, by the Egyptologists, by the historians, and they cling to them. It is very difficult for us to convince them that the route to break and the understanding of these monuments is through the route of astronomy. So not surprisingly, we're getting a lot of stick from them. But these are antedated models that they have. There are new ideas using new sciences that explain these monuments far better. We're applying science here. We're following science, the science of astronomy, the science of geology. We need to consider what the science is telling us, and whether this conflicts with established views, with established theories. That's not my problem. If there are theories that are wrong, then they will have to be changed. What isn't wrong is the alignment of these monuments and the stones themselves. It is not right not to consider what science is telling us simply because we have existing theories. If theories are wrong, then they need to be changed. We are trying to change theories that do not fit anymore with what the science is telling us. And the science is telling us very seriously that we have to consider that humanity is far older than we think, and civilization may predate the Ice Age, whether we like it or not, or whether it's conflicting with old established theories.